A city at the mercy of protesters for a third day running, marching through the streets and taking over the Shrine of Remembrance. This as Melbourne's about to set a new record for lockdowns.
Taunting our city. Protesters send a menacing message that this is only the beginning. Though marching in smaller numbers today, they covered a lot of ground. Flares lit at Queen Vic Market before making their way to the shrine. A quiet place of reflection to honour our fallen soldiers, hijacked by an angry mob.
If the digger feels disrespected by it, I'm sorry, he can come and have a chat to me and we can have a discussion.
In a standoff with riot police, it's a sad thing to see on such hallowed ground. The Force's Chief Commissioner this morning talked a big game, pledging lessons have been learned.
I'm not going to talk about what our tactics are. Safe to say that those tactics will be different.
Officers moved in, arresting plenty, but also just yelling and pushing to get them out of the city.
I certainly understand that people are fatigued, they're tired, they've got grievances and they're frustrated, but now is not the time for protest.
And you don't need a protest to see how tired we are. We're 234 days in and Melburnians have had it, loitering longer outside and doing everything they can to enjoy some human interaction.
I mean, obviously I'm just on a walk because it's really important to look after your mental health during lockdowns, especially because I live alone.
It's taking a long time.
I can see why people are impatient, but we can't open up because if we did, it would explode.
In a matter of weeks, it's predicted the state could be suffering at the hands of 2,000 new cases a day.
It does feel at times that we're drowning in this.
It's the uncertainty of all of this that's worn us down. Premier Daniel Andrews finally giving Victorians some dates to work towards.
At 70% double dose, the indicative date being the 26th of October, lockdown will end.
It doesn't change the fact that Melbourne is about to set a sobering record as the longest locked down city in the world. Come October 26, if we're freed as planned, we will have been in lockdown for 267 days. That's more than 3 weeks longer than Buenos Aires, which takes second place for longest lockdown at 245 days.
It's gaining momentum. But then when you
Nancy Baxter feels our pain. The epidemiologist moved to Australia last year for an adventure. So much for that.
I think if we weren't in lockdown, we'd be in dire straits.
And what she's seen back home in Canadian hospitals attests to that.
And at that point, they were going to start what's called triaging people. So literally choosing who was going to live and who was going to die based on who they thought was most likely to survive.
Like, it's heartbreaking. And as a 25-year-old, having to hold a patient's hand and, you know, I've got family saying, say goodbye.
Imagine having to comfort someone who will die alone. Nurses Sarah and Gabby have both been through
It's awful getting an iPad for families to say goodbye. It's honestly awful. And I had COVID last year and I was alone in hotel quarantine and it's frightening.
They're living and breathing this in a way few of us can understand.
I have changed my PPE maybe over 30 times today.
I've seen a lot of patients on my ward who have told me they never believed in COVID. Mm-hmm. You know, last week I was looking after a 35-year-old. Because of that, his family weren't getting tested. They didn't seem to think how serious this was. And yeah, he's now in ICU.
If we let things get out of control now because we're tired, it's going to mean we're going to need to be in lockdown longer.
The question at the heart of this debate is at what cost?
We cannot go back. So we cannot go back into lockdowns. It's unsustainable.
Bruce Keebar is founder of The Big Group.
Today we are at The Big Group. We're discussing the opening of the Glass House.
But for COVID, his hospitality agency would now be under the pump, preparing to feed Flemington's most glamorous guests in the birdcage. And while champagne sipping may seem superfluous in a pandemic, The spring racing carnival gives jobs to some 20,000 Victorians and splashes hundreds of millions of dollars into our economy.
The goal of seeing, Melbourne Cup being the race that starts the state is a really exciting thing, and I think that's all humans want. We want hope, and we want, we want a goalpost, and we can see it clearly.
In between our lockdowns, Kiba has been running cabaret shows for performers who've lost work.
Think Harry Potter, Moulin Rouge, all of these things that are really important, and all these artists, they will continue not to be able to trade. So support has to be industry specific.
Nothing says Melbourne more than football. And even if your own team sadly hasn't made the cut, grand final week is always an awesome time in this city. And that's why this says it all. An empty MCG, which would otherwise be buzzing right now ahead of a blockbuster end to the season.
College football is really back.
It's hard to watch how Americans are now living and not feel envious.
They hide a very ugly truth in the United States. Many thousands of people are dying of COVID, and they just have decided that they are willing to accept that. And we can do much better than that in Australia.
And so, in the spirit of doing our bit, here's how one Aussie is embracing lockdown.
Oh, look at that. That is my happy place.
Tony Nguyen is devouring one Melbourne pizza review at a time.
One bite, everyone knows the rules.
I've gone through probably all the streaming contents. I've finished probably Netflix, Stan, and I'm pretty much maxed out on YouTube. So I'm at a point now where I'm creating my own content.
Call the fire brigades, grab the fire extinguisher. This is straight up fire. This is amazing.
There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, not just in Tony's world, but in the science world too.
I really think more innovations are, they're not years away, they're months away. What we're really hoping for are treatments that, you can give to people when they are first diagnosed so that they never become sick with COVID-19.